Hey everyone, welcome back to Just Mia's podcast. I'm your host, Just Mia, and I am super excited for my guest today. She has many titles, okay? Wife, mother, my friend, but most of you probably know her as the Peoria Unified School District Board Member. That's a mouthful. Heather Rooks.
Hey, Mia.
Hey.
And I know some people will call me by the Peoria Mom. That started off back in 2020 when I first started. And I know that was a lot to Michelle Dillard. She actually gave me that nickname and it just took off. So,
nice.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's your, if you want to, do you want to shout out people where they can find you?
Yeah. I mean, Michelle Dillard, she was one of the first people I met on my journey. And she was the president of Purple for Parents.
Okay.
And she is a fierce mom and advocate for parents. And I'm just amazed by how much she has helped a lot of parents, including myself.
Yeah.
So, yeah,
nice.
Give a shout out to Michelle Dillard.
And people can find you on Twitter.
Yes,
right?
on Twitter, the Peoria Mom, and Instagram, the Peoria Mom 2022, I think is what it was.
All right.
And yeah, I went with it because people were easily to recognize it.
Yeah.
When I'm out there trying to help parents.
Cool.
Yeah.
Well, I just want to say thank you for coming on the podcast. Yeah. I'm so excited. So today I just kind of wanted to do kind of like from the beginning. How did we get here, right? Like, how did you get from being a mother to now being on the board, and immersed in all of this? Sometimes it feels like chaos, and a lot of fighting. And so I just wanted to get back to the very, very, very beginning before you were even knew you were going to run to be on the board, and just kind of get your story and kind of, let everybody know, how did you get here? Yeah. So if you want to
absolutely
start on that.
Well, I think what I would talk about is a lot of friends and family that I grew up with. They would say that I was not outspoken. I was very shy. I was not somebody who wanted to be in confrontation or say anything. Like, I just wanted to be nice to everybody, and just go with the flow.
Yeah.
And so in 2020, my kids were in the district. I grew up actually in the district. I went to Frontier and Sunrise Mountain High School. My husband did as well. We had been married for 10 years. We have 4 kids. And in 2020, when COVID hit and they shut down the schools, when Peoria opened up their schools, 2 of my kids are autistic, diagnosed with autism. And one of my kids in the developmental preschool was able to be mask-free. They didn't do that to the children that had the special needs. But my other son was forced to wear a mask. And it was weird because as a mom, I just emailed the school nurse. I was like, hey, I've done some research. Do I just give you a diagnosis from his doctor, like a doctor's note? He's not going to wear a mask.
Yeah.
He had a lot of sensory issues, a lot of struggles that we really tried to work on, but it just was not going to happen. Yeah. And he does better in school. And so the online school was not an option. So I just thought, hey, let me just email the school nurse.
Right.
That's what I've always done in the past. And she had emailed back. I remember it as clear as day, like, yeah, just give us a doctor's note. Stating what he's diagnosed with and, exemption. Doug Ducey had, exemptions for special needs in the community. And so that's what I did. And first day of school, he was so worried about going to school. Like, he was like, they're going to force me to do it. That was all that he thought about. Yeah. And I said, nope. I said, I have got it covered. I've got the doctor's note. They're going to fax it over to the school. You're going to be fine. Like, take a deep breath.
Yeah.
Going back to school, dropped him off that morning. He walked in, no mask on.
Yeah.
About 12 o'clock that day, I got a phone call from the school. And they had let me know that immediately when he walked into the classroom with no mask, the teacher and the assistant principal at the time had informed him that he would not be able to go to class without a mask on. And they had actually forced it on him without calling me.
Wow.
And I was so deeply hurt because I knew what he was going through.
Yeah.
I knew that he was going to be panicking. I knew that he was going to be traumatized from it. I knew that he was going to be frustrated and not understanding.
Yeah.
And so when I picked him up that day, he was upset. He was angry. When you have a child who is autistic, their emotions are all over the place.
Yeah.
And so he just did not understand. He was like, I thought you said that I wouldn't have to do it. And I was so lost during that time as a parent. And we had called, I got on Facebook. I was like, what do I do? I needed help. Somebody actually connected me with Devin Updegraft Day.
Okay.
That is how I met. She's now my friend to this day. She was running for school board at the time. She was actually also a medical provider. And so she was willing to advocate for me, help me walk through the process of reaching out to the superintendent, reaching up to the school board. That's how I met Michelle Dillard, president of the Purple for Parents at the time. And she connected me to, the executive order on COVID and how Doug Ducey made exemptions for our special needs community.
Yeah.
And that is how I met one of the board members, Beverly Pingarelli. I called her up. I'm like, what do I do? I'm like, I don't know what to do with my special needs child.
Yeah.
And
so you didn't know any of these people.
I didn't know any of these people.
You just were like,
somebody
help me.
Yeah, somebody help me. We were interviewed by the news, me and my husband. Devin, I think, had connected us to the news. Everybody was.
And that one, I think, was the one that went.
Yeah, it went viral because
everybody, yeah.
Yeah, because everybody was concerned about our special needs children. Right? Who they fell through the cracks during COVID. They were pushed aside. Nobody really thought about them.
Yeah.
And I just remember during that first week, right? Like they tried to make we'll give him a break here. We'll give him a break there. It was exhausting mentally. And, I just remember the biggest moment for me was that week on Friday. I was standing outside the school, ready to take him in. He's just standing there at the flagpole, just looking at me. And I remember the principal was outside and just had the mask like in his hand. And my son just looked at me for help. He looked to me, Mom, I don't want to do this. I don't want to put this on. It's going to cause him stress. I remember seeing that look on his face. And I just thought, what am I doing as a mom?
How can I help?
This is my kid.
Right.
I am supposed to be, he is looking to me for courage, for guidance, to help him.
Yeah.
And I was like, I'm done.
Yeah.
I'm not going to play this game anymore. What they're doing to our kids. And I took him and I put him in the car. I told the principal, we're not doing this. I called my husband. I was like, honey, I can't force him. I cannot force my child to do this when I know that it's going to cause him so much anxiety and pain and frustration. And I just couldn't do that to him. From there, Devin helped me. Michelle Dillard helped me and my husband. We went to our first board meeting. Beverly Pingarelli was very adamant. My kid missed a month and a half of school. We kept him home.
Wow.
We were like, we're not sending him to school. We're not going to torture him with this mask.
Yeah.
We're not going to put him on online learning. This is his education. And we fought for him.
Yeah.
All the way for a month and a half of missing school. We fought him to the first board meeting that we went to. And I remember my husband got up to the podium and he just looked to the superintendent, Dr. Reynolds. He was like, you get our kid back in school. We will pay for plexiglass around his desk, whatever it takes. I got up to the podium, and of course, my husband, being the strong man that he is, he's just like, do it. And I just start bawling. I was like, please do something. I don't know what to do. Like, I need you guys to advocate for these kids.
Yeah.
And at that meeting, the board members were very receptive on what are we doing for our special need kids. Judy Doan was on the school board. She is a big special education advocate. And it ended up coming down to, we got him back in school, no mask, plexiglass around his desk.
Oh, wow.
And then I even glued the shield to a popsicle stick to have him just hold it in front of his face so it doesn't touch. Because with kids with autism, they cannot handle sensory things. And he would just hold that when they're walking in the hallways. And that is how dedicated I was.
Yeah.
I was like, I am not giving up on my child. I'm going to stand up for him because I'm his voice.
Right.
And that was where it started. And then me and Devin went to the next school board meeting because I was like, what is a school board? What do they do? This is shocking.
Why am I coming to them?
Why? Yeah. I was like, what
can they do? Yeah.
Right. And so I wanted to learn more. So the next meeting we went to, Devin and I met Becky Smith, Christina, all the moms that you have seen me with at the board meetings now.
Yeah.
We've become friends. And it was actually a board meeting where the district was presenting to the board members about an elective course that was a trial run at one of the high schools.
Oh, okay.
And it has a small little summary on the agenda. And the room was filled. Like my in-laws came to the board meeting because they're like, what is this course? And it had in there about American identities. And I remember just observing. Judy Doan and Beverly Pingarelli were asking a lot of questions. Judy Doan asked the curriculum coach at the time at the podium, is critical race theory going to be in this class? Are you going to use the 1619 project? This is about teaching kids they're oppressed or privileged and victims. And the answer back was, well, 1619 project, it's going to be one resource. And then they were like, well, where's the curriculum? Like, the board was only given this small little summary.
Right.
And the community.
And they wanted to pass that.
And I remember the curriculum coach was like, well, we haven't written the curriculum yet. We just thought you had to approve the course description first before we write it. And I just remember sitting there and I was like, what is going on right now? What?
What? Yeah.
What? You people are in charge of my child's education. And the two board members were like, we're not going to approve something that you haven't even drafted.
Right. Yeah.
What? That's a huge responsibility to ask somebody to approve something you haven't even drafted yet because we don't know what you're going to put in it. And it's going in front of children.
Yeah.
So it was voted through, though, because the 3 Democrats on the board voted it through. The 2 Republicans voted it no.
Yeah. Sandoval was on the board.
Sandoval was on the board.
And he voted it through.
And then we also had Monica Martinez was on the board. Beverly Pingarelli, Judy Doan were the 2 Republicans. And there was a 3rd board member on the board as well. I'm blanking on the name because it's been 4 years of exhaustion.
Yeah.
But after that, I made connections with Diane Douglas.
Okay.
She was our previous Arizona superintendent of, public instruction.
Yeah.
She had actually been on the Peoria school board when I was in high school. So that was pretty funny.
Okay.
But she just started to kind of I want to say educate me. She was like, well, this is what a school board does. This is what they vote on. Because I had a lot of questions after that meeting, and I really wanted to understand these positions that were making such big decisions for our children.
Right.
And she was like, well, actually, she mentioned that Arizona has a public record law where you can request public records. And I was like, well, what's that? I was very wanting to know what all this was. And so she walked me through how to do it. And the first public record request I did was for the curriculum department, because I was really curious on that elective course. I just was flabbergasted that somebody could say, well, we don't have it written up yet.
Right.
That didn't make any sense to me. And when I requested their emails, because you can request emails of public employees, it came back with, the department had emails before that board meeting in December of 2020 of the elective course. They were discussing it and how it was going to have curriculum. It was drafted. There was a 15-page syllabus that they had a little attachment on the email. And they were all emailing each other back and forth before that board meeting. Oh, yeah, here it is. Prepare for the board meeting.
Right.
But it was a 15-page syllabus of what the class would be about, what would be used in it, what was the materials, what was going to be the studies, like grades, everything. And it was about the 1619 project.
And they had all that information before that meeting. Interesting.
And it just was shocking to see that, because I didn't think that would be happening in our district. Like, I just didn't think that people would hide stuff like that.
Yeah.
And when that came out, obviously I wrote about it. I wrote an op-ed, the Daily Independent. They wrote about it. Went on James T. Harris radio show, talked about it, because that was at the time where parents were like, no, this can't be happening. Yeah. And I was one of those parents. I'm like, no, they're not bringing CRT 1619. No.
Yeah.
And there it was, point blank.
Wow.
And it just was shocking.
Yeah.
To see that. And I had a group of us parents. We kept doing record requests, because we're like, well, what else is being hidden?
The infamous record requests that everybody
talks about.
Around.
Yes, still to this day. And my whole thing is it's costing money to the district.
300,000.
300,000.
I saw somebody said 500,000.
Yeah, it keeps changing.
Yeah.
But the thing to me is, if I had not done that,
right,
what else would they have pushed in front of our children?
Absolutely.
And to me, children, it's priceless. That you can't get that back.
Right.
I don't care. I will do whatever it takes to protect the kids. Yeah. And you're not going to go telling a child, you're privileged, you're oppressed. Right. I don't believe in doing that to these kids.
Right.
I believe in our teachers that are wanting to teach the kids about, hey, you can do anything you set your mind to.
Right.
And
you get what you put in.
Yes. I'm like,
and that's what it comes down to.
It's so sad that they are wanting to separate these kids again.
Yeah.
And when I started doing record requests, I would read the stuff that I found at the board meetings, at the podium. This is what's going on. This is what I'm reading. This is what your teams are bringing in front of the children in the schools.
Right.
And as I started to do that, I would have teachers and parents reach out to me quietly.
Really?
Yep. I had...
Wait, were you running for board at that time? You were still just a parent?
I was still speaking. I was just still speaking.
You were just a parent speaking at the board meetings? I was still a parent
speaking at the board meetings.
Wow.
And I remember the first teacher that reached out to me, and she was just like, I don't want my name out there. And I said, I will never say your name. No. She's like, you can say it at a board meeting because it's what's happening. Please speak about it. And she said, she was a history teacher, and she said, the stuff that we get sent as teachers from the district and the curriculum department is so anti-American. She goes, I cannot teach it. Wow. I can't. Wow. I can't do that to our country. And
And this was 2021.
This was 2021 before I ever decided to run for board. And she just was so scared to say anything. She was terrified.
Yeah.
And I was like, I'm never going to say your name. Yeah. And I did speak about it at a board meeting.
Yeah.
And I even spoke about, there was a staff meeting at a school, and they were asked as teachers to write down on a card, when did you realize you were white?
What?
You're laughing. Like
Are you serious?
I felt so bad. I was like, and I read this at a board meeting. I was like, are you guys serious?
This was for the teachers.
This was for the teachers at a school.
Wow.
They were asked, it was a staff professional development, and they were like, here's your exercise. They had to write down on a card, when did you realize you were white? And I just was like,
what? How does this relate to educating my child?
Education and these poor teachers? Like, are you kidding?
That's
like,
crazy.
They're wanting to have help and support on how to teach these kids. And that's what you're asking. I felt like you just stomped on them and pushed them down. And that's not what we're supposed to be doing. Right. And so, I have people that are like, well, you hate teachers. No, I don't hate teachers. Those teachers that have reached out to me, they wouldn't reach out to me if they thought I hated them. Yeah. What I don't like is the teachers that are becoming activists and they're calling sick outs. That was in January 2021. Yes. Like we had the board voted to bring kids back to school after Christmas, and we're just going to call in sick.
Yep. I remember that.
Yeah. And all the high schools was shut down. Yeah. Because they didn't like, the circumstances. They didn't like that decision. Yeah. And it's like, that's the ones that I don't like, because you're damaging the kids. Right. You're screwing over your other employees in the district. Yeah. So it was shocking to see, like, the teachers that did reach out, they just were scared to death. They're like, please don't ever say my name, because they will become targets.
People are still scared.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, if anybody just goes onto any of these, sites, that Facebook pages that we're on, that there are the few that do speak out against things, you get attacked. Like, plain and simple, you get attacked.
And they would tell me, like, things would happen at their job where they would be targeted, just in the hallway by fellow employees that are much more outspoken. And I just was like, I'm never going to say your name. Yeah. And I never have. I mean, even when I did become a board member, I even said, in one of my board comments, I was like, teachers, staff, if there is something going on in your school and you are afraid to say something, call me. Look me up, call me, email me. I will listen, and I will never say who it came from. Yeah. Because I don't care. Like this, it needs to stop. This they talk about that I've politicized this. This was political underneath our noses as moms and dads. Right. We just didn't know about it. We just didn't know about it. We didn't know. Yeah. So that's where it started. And we actually, that elective course, because we spoke out about it and the shadiness of it all. Yeah. It was not implemented in the school. Oh, good. Yeah. Goodness. So I was like, stop separating our kids. Yeah. It's ridiculous. So that happened. And then we just started seeing more and more things, me and Devin. We had parents reaching out. We had, I started to help other parents advocate for their kids, and made a lot of connections. And one day, me and Devin were just talking on the phone with Peter Pingarelli. Okay. He was Beverly Pingarelli's husband. He passed away this year. Yeah. Great man. And he just really wanted to give us a lot of wisdom and guidance. And he said, if you guys want to run, you guys should definitely run. He's like, but it's going to be hard. Yeah. You're going to be attacked, and you really have to think, is this what you want to do? Right. For these families and students and staff in the district. And me and Devin were just like, we have to do something. Yeah. Like, you can't sit on the sidelines and ignore it anymore. Right. As parents and as Americans. Like, you just cannot sit by anymore.
Yeah. Yeah, because that was during a time when nobody knew.
Yeah.
I know for me, I didn't know. I had no idea. I didn't pay attention to school board meetings. You know, my kids had been in school years, before I had even went to a school board meeting or anything. So I think people just didn't know. And then when you finally do figure it out, then you're like, oh, this is what's happening? This is crazy.
Yeah.
And you and Devin, I think, kind of stepped up in a time where it was just starting to get hostile. Because
Yes.
I want to say prior to that, if you went to a school board meeting, they like to say it was boring, right? Because nobody questioned anything.
Yeah. Everything
You
was
just said yes.
passed through right away. You just,
Right. Yeah. You
Yep,
just
sure,
said yes.
no problem.
I think, like you mentioned, Beverly Pingarelli and Jane Doan.
Judy Doan. Yeah.
Judy Doan. I'm
Yeah.
sorry. I always say Jane. Judy Doan. They kind of started that questioning and, saying what's going on here and
Yes.
and trying to do that. And then after that, I feel like is when people really started paying attention.
Yeah, they
When
definitely
you and Devin-
did. Yeah, when we started to go to board meetings, more and more parents came.
Yeah.
And they would listen. And that's how we even met Jeff Toby as well.
Yes. Yeah.
He remembers watching us with his wife on the school board meetings online. And he just was like, you come with facts. You have the proof in your hands as I'm reading from
Always.
it. And
Yep.
I think that just really woke up a lot of parents. We had so many parents. We had community members. We had grandparents. We had a lot of people showing up and just shocked at what was going on. And just hearing our district, where it used to be to where it is now,
Yeah.
everybody's just really disappointed.
Absolutely.
That's what I've mostly heard from. They are just so disappointed because they love this district.
Yeah.
They love the connection, the history, but to see it where it's gone downhill is just really sad. And they like to blame it on me.
Yeah.
I know that that's big. They blame it on me, but
Yeah.
you have to understand when I came in and started speaking up, people were reaching out and they're like, thank you for saying it
Yeah.
because we've been watching it go downhill before you even
Oh, it was
came
going
here.
downhill well before.
Yeah, well before I
well
came.
before you.
Yeah.
And I would say
Yeah.
since David Sandoval's been on the board,
Yeah.
maybe.
Right. I mean, I just
Because even before I had known about you or met you or anything like that, I also grew up in the district. I went to Kachina and then I went to Cactus. And so the district was always well known. It was well liked. People wanted to come back. They wanted to teach there. There were sometimes, second, third generation families that would have teachers, their teachers, their kids would come, they would teach, their kids would come and teach at Peoria. And I noticed, because I was working in the district, I noticed that there were a lot of teachers that were leaving because the pay. And Peoria used to be one of the best paying districts.
Yep.
And that's why teachers liked to be there. And it was a great district. And slowly it just has just turned into where it's at now. And it's really sad and it's really unfortunate because it used to be so good.
yes. People used to move to this area to go to this district.
Right.
And so that to me just really stands out.
Yeah.
And I think that, when me and Devin decided to run, we really have to give props to also our husbands because they knew that this was going to be a big commitment.
Yeah.
And the fact of we had so many family members and friends that were wanting to pitch in because we have never done that before.
Yeah.
I mean, we've never done anything political. We weren't, PCs beforehand or, anything to do with it.
Yeah.
I mean, we were both Republicans. We've both voted that way. But we were married, had kids.
Right.
And so for everybody,
just moms.
You were just moms. And so now it's just like everybody's, talks about political career for Heather. And it's like, I don't think you realize, like,
I have 4 kids.
I have 4 kids, and I wanted to do something. I was tired of hearing from all these parents that were so upset, and teachers that were afraid to speak out, or we had bus drivers, we had staff workers, and, I just was tired of hearing that. I was like, this needs to stop.
Yeah. Yeah. Not only just tired of hearing that, but to have it be happening, and teachers and admins are afraid to speak up about it. That's the unfortunate part.
I just was like, I'm tired of just sitting there and not doing anything. Like, it just was like, what? And so when we ran for board, and, I've been on it almost 2 years now, I think, you will notice I don't just say, stamp yes. I ask questions. Yeah. Because
you have to.
I have to. And it just is like, it just is, I'm not one that is just going to say yes because they asked me to. I'm going to ask questions. And if I don't think it's the right move, I'm going to vote no. Or, it's not a political thing. Everyone thinks it's political. And it's like, no, this is going in the wrong direction for our district.
Right.
And ultimately it's going to affect our families, our community. And that's a huge responsibility that I take serious.
Our future generations.
Yes. Yep.
We have kids, that were in kindergarten in 2020. And now here we are 4 years later, and they're still don't know how to read. Mm-hmm. Don't know basic math. Like that's a whole generation of kids that are being affected in this school district with so many students.
Yes.
Like there's so many students in this school district.
Yeah, exactly. And it just always was, I just wanted to do something. I just sitting back and not doing anything, or telling these parents, I'm sorry, I can't do anything. I couldn't do that to them.
Yeah.
Because I could hear in their voice the struggle, the please help me.
Yeah.
The same feeling the desperation, the same feeling I had with my own son that day. And I just was like, I want to help in any way that I can.
Yeah.
And I think that's been the hardest part, is when you're on the board, and if you don't have a majority vote, you really have to find other ways to help them. So I would reach out to any contacts that I had made in the past 4 years. Like, hey, I need help because I don't have a majority on the board. There is no accountability.
Right.
Because the people that have been up there have always just done exactly what the district wants them to do. Yep. And I think that's what you ultimately can't forget.
Yeah.
Is you're holding accountability.
Right. That's one thing that I've realized the district does not like.
No,
they do not like accountability.
And they don't like it when I ask questions.
No, they don't. No, they don't.
Yeah. And I just remember, before I got on the board, one of the other board members, no longer here, I had asked him, I was like, why would you want me in any, leadership role, right? I was very confused by it. And he said something of, you make the district uncomfortable.
Yeah.
They are uncomfortable with you. And I was kind of surprised and shocked by that, but I think it's because they realize Heather's not just going to say yes. I'm not just going to sit up there and smile on camera.
Yep.
I'm going to ask
and do whatever they want.
And do whatever they want.
Because that's what they were used to.
Yes, that's what they were used to.
Yeah.
And I would research. I would ask questions. I would push back on things, and they don't like that. They want somebody who's just going to be a yes ma'am.
Yeah.
And I was like, sorry, nope, not going to do it.
Yep.
You know, in 8th grade, when I graduated from Frontier, the teachers would give out awards to students. And my award that year was Most Interesting Questions Award. So that was, I have the certificate still. And
That's
so
funny.
that is always,
funny. Yeah.
stuck with me. And
Well, you are definitely a researcher.
yes.
I mean, you research very well.
Yep.
And they don't like that, which is probably why they don't like you doing public record requests, or they didn't like you doing public records requests, because they're like, she's spending all this money, trying to get people to go against you for that.
Yeah.
But it's like, it's proof. It's right there.
Right. And
Why
it's
would I
like-
not do public record requests?
Because I'm like, everybody does them across the whole country.
Yeah.
It's a federal thing. You can do it federally, the U.S. Department of Ed.
Right.
I mean, that is how we are able to see what our government is doing.
Right.
And
It's accountability.
it's accountability.
Right.
And I think that is what they forget is those kind of things. And, you know, we are the people.
right.
Like, this is our country, and we have a right to know who our leaders and elected officials, who they are and what they're doing.
right.
And that should always be there at our forefront of our decision making in our country and everything. Because if we lose that, right, if they were to take that away, we would never know what they're all doing.
Yeah.
And
even just since you've been on the board, there's, I'm sure, been plenty of behind the scenes, you know, kind of shadiness. I mean, that has not changed about the district, only because it's only been you. You've not had the majority vote to support this accountability, unfortunately. But hopefully come November, you will.
Yes, hopefully come November. Because it just is, I just don't know where our country will be after November. Like, if we do not have the people electing, you know, somebody who's going to actually look out for our children.
Right.
They're going to make sure that they get an education. I think that's the biggest thing that everybody seems to be forgetting. We're here to educate.
Yes.
Because if you don't give them an education, if they don't learn how to read, if they don't learn how to write or problem solve, right, math and learn about our history,
Think critically.
then they're going to have a really hard time out in the real world when they become adults.
Right.
And even just the fact of learning consequences, like, our actions have consequences. That's another big thing.
Yeah.
You know, like, kids need to learn that there are boundaries that can't be overstepped.
Yep.
And they got to have consequences, because when you set them up in the real world,
Right.
if they go do something that's against the law, it's not going to be well, let's sit down and talk about it.
Right.
You're going to get arrested if you break the law.
Yes.
So it's just...
And that's going to be even harder for them.
Yeah, it's going to be even harder for them.
To be like, wait, what?
Wait, what? I thought I could do this in school. Like,
Right.
What do you mean?
Yeah.
So I just think that I have seen parents waking up.
Yeah.
I mean, they have really woken up. I think the biggest meeting we ever had was when I was elected, when we had the vote with Rebecca Hill was on the board.
Yes.
Myself, Melissa Ewing, David Sandoval, and Bill Swanson, where we voted on, we just wanted to have a discussion on a policy, a discussion for separate bathrooms, locker rooms, overnight stays for girls and boys. And that room was packed. I mean,
Really?
it was, the whole boardroom was filled. The district office was filled. People were spilled out to outside. And me and Rebecca Hill, I just am so thankful for her, because we really tried, the other three, to really, like, do you understand the decision that you are making today?
Right.
These girls, we had so many girls reaching out.
Yeah.
and they just felt helpless. Like,
Yeah.
and if they said anything, if they came up to the podium and talked about it, they're going to be labeled bigots.
Yep.
They're going to be labeled transphobic. And that, I just couldn't believe that I was voting on something like that. As a mom, as a sister, as a wife. I mean, I just couldn't believe it.
Yeah.
And I remember when the vote finally happened, because we talked for like 45 minutes, all of us. And when the vote happened, Bill Swanson, David Sandoval, Melissa Ewing, they voted no, not to have a policy developed to protect our girls in their private spaces. And I just remember putting my head down, and I knew I was going to start crying. And our president, David Sandoval, said, let's just recess for a few minutes. And so I got up, I walked past this just group of parents. Like, it just was like, okay, I need to find somewhere to where I can let it all out.
Right.
Because we had to continue with the rest of the board meeting.
Yeah.
And I walked through this crowd of parents that just were like, you're doing great. Like, thank you for doing what you're doing and fighting for my kid and my daughter's rights. And I just went into this little corner, put my head down, and just started bawling, just crying. And I had all of the moms coming up behind me and just trying to hold me. And I just was like, what did I just vote on?
Right.
And it was heartbreaking. And the next meeting we had, a dad brought his little girl. She wanted to speak at the podium, and she just started crying herself and saying,
I remember that.
You know, she just was like, I don't want to have to go into the bathroom and not know if there's going to be a boy in there next to me. And I was like, look at what we just did.
Yeah.
That fear of this poor girl not knowing.
Right.
And you can say, you know, well, these kids that think they're girls or whatever, but they're actually a boy, but they want to identify as a girl.
Right.
You're never going to get those girls to see them that way. You're never.
Yeah.
Ever. You
It's
can't
just
do it's
instinctual.
It's
And that's the thing, is that they want all of our girls to go against their instinct. And I find that just so wrong.
Right. And you can't punish them for that. Like, you can't punish and blame them and say, you have to do this. Like, you just, I couldn't believe that. And I remember Rebecca Hill and myself, just after that little girl spoke, we just both stood up and clapped, because we were just like,
I remember that. Yeah.
That was the,
did everybody start clapping?
As me and Rebecca Hill stood up to clap, then the rest of them did. And I just was like, are you kidding me?
Sandoval, Sorensen. I know.
I was like, you're the ones that just
and
voted
Ewing,
against her voice.
Yeah.
Her voice.
They stood up and started clapping.
Yeah. And I was like, I can't believe this is, I was like, what
You're
world
like,
am
what
I
are
in
you
right
doing?
now?
You're clapping for this little girl.
Yeah.
But you voted to not keep her safe.
That's
at
like
school.
clapping, you know, if Riley Gaines came to our board meeting, clapping for Riley as she talked about, you know, having to be in a locker room with a male penis hanging out. Like, are you kidding me?
Yeah. After you just voted.
After you just like slammed the door in her face.
Gosh.
Sorry, you don't get your own private space.
Right. That's so crazy.
Yeah.
I mean, if that doesn't tell you something right there.
Yeah.
It's like, what is going on?
I was like, I can't. I was shell shocked by that one. And I think that's when parents were just like, this cannot happen.
Yeah.
Like, we cannot go down this road. That is where they just were like, we're drawing the line.
Yeah.
Because if we don't stand up now for our girls and also our boys, you know, like boys
too.
Boys too, because my boys, we're talking about kids that are under 18. They're not fully developed yet.
Right.
And they're not going to understand it. They're like you said, their process, their instinct is, why is there a girl in here?
Right.
Like, I've always been taught, like,
that's
it's
uncomfortable
boys,
for me.
it's like when they're in those younger ages, I'm like, you are messing with their developmental
it should
stages.
be. That's how it should be.
Yes. Yep.
Because there's a reason for that.
Yes, there's a reason for it.
It's just, yeah. And the unfortunate part about that vote that has happened since that day is that can't go away. We can't move forward. We can't continue forward and focus on education because this thorn will not go away.
Yeah.
Because nobody will take the vote to pass a bathroom policy. And I mean, it's not even a hard one. It's common sense.
Right. Yeah.
And so,
because I feel like you're also putting the trans students in danger. I really do. Because the backlash that they will face, you know, I just think it's going to get worse. And you can't blame the girls. Like, you can't say, well, they're the ones that are being, you can't do that.
Yeah.
Because they want their own privacy too. They're not comfortable.
Right.
No matter what you try to tell them, they're going to see that person as a boy.
Especially if they grew up with them.
Yeah. So I'm like, it's, you can't push that on them. So I'm like, you're putting even them in danger. And so that's why they need to have their own private restroom where they are safe, the girls are safe, and the boys are safe. Like, you have to think of every student that is safe, and you can't, you know, ignore the girls and be like, well, too bad. We're going to do this.
Get over it.
Like, get over it. Like
which is pretty much what they've told.
Yeah. Which is pretty much what they've told them. And
our girls and our boys. Get over it.
Get over it.
Yeah.
You can't, they're going to get more frustrated.
Yeah.
You're going to have, you know, I think about sisters that have big brothers, or if you're in high school and the girls have a boyfriend, like their first instinct is going to be to protect them.
And
if they see that the girls
if
they see the girls are upset, and they're in tears, they're uncomfortable, they don't know what to do with a boy in their bathroom, shower, whatever. They're not going to understand. And these boys are not going to be, their first instinct is going to be, I'm here to protect her.
Yeah.
And all I see is she is uncomfortable. She's upset. Yeah. So I'm like, you are putting everybody in danger by not having something clear and concise.
Right. Yeah.
And that's why I'm also like, please vote for President Trump so that that can go away too.
Yeah.
With Biden and Kamala Harris and all that nonsense.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Gosh.
It's crazy.
It is.
So, I mean, it just started out with, as a mom, I was like, I wanted to fight for my kid. But then as I took a stand and I found the courage, and I know that courage came from God. Yeah. I know it did. Because like I said, growing up, I was shy. I didn't like to speak up. I didn't want to make anybody upset. I didn't want to do anything. So I know that courage came from him to speak up for my child, the child that he entrusted me with.
Right.
And as I did that, I had other parents that were just like, thank you for what you're doing. Can you help me with my kid?
Right.
Can you help me with this? Like, what do I do here? And so I just started to learn as I went on this journey, and
it just happened.
Yeah, it just happened like that. And so I just find it funny when people are just like, oh, it's a political career, and I'm like, no, it's not a political career. Like there's oh, she's getting paid by organizations to, you know, she can pay by Trump, or she's getting paid to do this, or she's paying people. I'm like, there's no money coming from Trump. Right. There's no money coming from any of these national organizations. Are they?
You're not paying anybody.
Yeah, I'm not paying anybody. Like,
you're not paying activists.
No, I'm not paying activists. That's not happening.
Yeah. They love.
Are there organizations that help us? Yeah, absolutely.
Because that's what they stand for. Yeah, it's not because
they want to help parents.
Right.
Like Parents Defending Ed, Moms for Liberty.
Right.
Moms for America.
Yeah.
Purple for Parents, AZ Women of Action.
Yeah.
All of these organizations are just like, what can we do to help?
Yeah.
Because they care about these parents, and they know a lot of us parents don't have always the resources, the money. We don't have money for lawyers. We don't have money to fight this. We don't have this. We don't know what we're doing half the time. And so they're just there to like, hey, we're here for you.
Yeah.
If you need help with your child, if you need help with special education, if you need help with navigating all of this, they're there. And I just think that that's really important to remember is they are trying to help these poor parents because we didn't know what we were going to go through.
And to educate them on how to stand up for your child.
Yeah.
Because I'm sure that there's plenty of parents out there who feel helpless and they don't know what to do.
Right.
And just like you did.
Yeah.
And then you were like, okay, what do? I got to do something.
Right.
Like I can't just sit.
I can't just sit.
I can't just sit here and watch
my child struggle. And just, I was like, I didn't know what to do. And so when I had all these people that were just so gracious of, Devin, I mean, she really, really helped me. And I will never be able to thank her enough for what she did. And Michelle Dillard.
Yeah.
They spent hours on the phone with me. They spent hours helping my son. And I can never repay what they did. And everything that they went through. I mean, the backlash that me and Devin got. I mean, we had Nazi symbols drawn on our faces. We had her business was attacked.
Yeah.
They went after her doctorate degree that she was getting. The other side went after her for that. They targeted her college. They tried to make up lies.
That's crazy.
They went after my kids.
Yeah.
Trying to spread information about them, trying to talk to teachers from that school. And
that was well, and I think the most concerning part about that with your children specifically is that these were Peoria employees and staff members who, that information is not supposed to be just given to anybody.
No, it's supposed to
they
be
were
protected.
on a Facebook page, just
not even
throwing
discussing,
it out there.
Yeah, not even discussing my own children, but other parents who have been coming to the podium talking about their kids.
Yeah. Anybody's
kids.
That came out and stood up and came to the podium and took that step to come to the podium and say, this is what's happening.
Right.
And if it wasn't in agreement with them, you get attacked.
You get attacked. And not even you attacked. It's, your kids go to this school. The kids of this parent goes here. Yeah. And it just was like, we could not believe what we had found. And I felt so bad for those other parents because I knew that they were taking a stand and I felt so bad for them.
Well, you knew what they were risking.
Yeah, they were risking. I mean, that's a lot.
Because you went through it.
Because I went through it.
Yeah.
And that was just really hard to see that there would be somebody that angry and mad to talk about my children and to try to get information on them.
Yeah.
And that was a hard time. And we didn't know we didn't know that would happen. I really didn't. I did not think it would be.
You didn't think people would go that far.
Yeah, I didn't think people would go that far. If you didn't like what I stood for, if you didn't like what I said, I could understand that.
Right.
But to go after somebody's kids and try to, hey, let me go talk to somebody at their school to get information on them. That was just.
That's crazy.
That was crazy.
Yeah.
That is, as much as I have disagreed with David Sandoval, with Melissa Ewing.
Right.
I have never gone after their children.
Right.
I've never talked about their children.
Yeah.
I've never talked about their families.
Yeah.
Because that is, to me, that is horrific.
Yeah.
That is
it's off limits.
It's off limits. Like you just don't do that.
Yeah.
It's you are looking at how the person votes on matters.
Right.
You're not targeting their family.
Right.
And I think that's the biggest thing that I really have seen. And it's always hard to talk about. It's come up in board meetings before. because one of the board members, Melissa Ewing, was during the election we ran against her. She was one of the individuals that was working in the district and talked about my kids. Yeah. And that was really...
Because she substituted at your kids' school, right?
She was a sub at my kids' school, and that was really hard because all I wanted to do was protect them. I wanted to put this big wall around them.
You're a mom.
Yeah, like I'm a mom. And that's what people don't understand. Like, I'm literally mom.
Yeah.
Just trying to stand up for these parents.
Yeah.
And I want to see Peoria back where it was because I loved going to Frontier. I loved going to Sunrise.
Right.
And that is just what's so sad is that I want to get back to that.
Right.
I want to get back to the greatness of Peoria.
Yeah.
And making sure that these kids can get educated. And it's so hard to do that when people are attacking your kids and your own family. Like that is, I think, and I feel like that is something where I really have seen President Trump and just what he stands up for. I mean, and the fact that they would attack his family, his kids and his wife and just the nastiness of that. I'm just like, man, I mean, I and you
crazy.
think about it,
it's
like,
wild. Yeah.
You think about it. School board, I don't think a lot of people know this, but school board members are volunteers. They're not paid. It is the one elected position where we're not paid. So all the phone calls that I take for parents, because I want to help them, I want to do something.
Yeah.
I'm not getting, there's no money. I know everyone keeps saying, oh, she's getting paid.
Yeah.
There's no money.
There's no money.
There's no money.
Trust me.
There's no money.
Wish there was.
There's no money. And honestly, I don't want to take the money because I just want to help the parents. I just want to help their kids get an education. And I want to help
your kids,
my kids. Yeah.
Because your kids are in this school
they're
district.
still here. They love it. We love it. We have the best. I do have to give a shout out to my kid's principal because she is amazing. She is a breath of fresh air. She came here 2 years ago. She just brightens up your day as soon as you step on campus, dropping your kids off.
That's good.
And that is where I'm like, I wish I could just replicate her.
Yes.
Put her everywhere because you just feel like, okay, I can trust this woman with my children.
Yeah.
And it just is.
My kids' principal was like that too when they first started. And then I ended up working or being on the PTSO with her.
Yep.
And then I ended up working for her. So Landa Tartaglio, she's amazing.
She is.
She's an amazing admin. And like you said, if we could just replicate them, Peoria would be amazing.
Amazing. And I just,
not to say that there aren't other great admins out there and all of that.
Yes, yeah.
But you know,
you see the ones that really stand out.
Yeah.
And I think that, you know, I would love to have those kind of leaders, right? Like admin that we've had that really shine, that really stand out. The teachers that we've had for so long, like the ones that I'm so heartbroken when I hear at the board meetings that the teachers that have worked here for so long, they're getting paid, you know, less than the new ones coming in. And, oh, well, if you want to get paid more, just quit, come back in a year. Yeah. And I'm like, that's
crazy.
Horrible.
That's crazy.
We should be doing everything we can to keep them. Giving them more money.
Right.
I'm like, and we should be using them as mentors for the new teachers.
Yes.
Like, I don't understand why we're doing it that way.
Yeah.
Like, and the district has a $400 million budget. So,
where is that going?
I know.
If it's not to our teachers, I don't know.
But, you know, I've had teachers that have come out and that have talked about that. And they're like, we know you're going to listen. Yeah. And I'm like, I'm going to listen. Yeah. I'm going to push back as much as I can. But I'm like, again, it comes down to, I need 3. And that is the biggest thing. I remember Peter Pingarelli, you know, he's in heaven right now. Yeah. Just so happy probably with Jesus. Yes. God bless him. He would always say to me and Devin, you only need to count to 3.
Yes.
And that is like, parents, you only need to count to 3 to make change.
Yeah.
And I will hold on as long as I can. But if you do not get Jeff, Toby, and Janelle Bowles
Right.
on that Peoria school board, I can't emphasize
Yeah.
the things that I have seen, the things that I have heard. I am honestly terrified for our children. So I just,
Yeah.
it's so hard to talk about that.
Yeah.
Because it is well,
because
terrifying.
like I said, our children are still in the district.
Yes.
So we need Jeff
Yes.
and Janelle in there because we're, they're, you guys, Jeff, Janelle, that's 3.
Yes.
And you guys are fighting for our children.
Right.
And
yeah.
And you are fighters who are not going to just give in to these attacks that come from the other side that you have dealt with for
Right. 4 years
the last,
now.
Yeah. And, that's what we need.
Yeah.
That's what we need. That's what I want as a parent. I want people that are going to be on that board. They're going to fight for my kids as hard as I will.
Right.
And that's Jeff and Janelle.
Right. Yeah, that's Jeff and Janelle. And I'm so thankful that there is so many parents, there is so many community members, and all of the friends that I have made.
Yeah.
And I just thank all of them. And I think that really thank to my family, my husband.
Yeah.
I know that he is just he knows that I'm trying to help as many parents as I can. That's all I care about.
I'm sure it's not easy for him
Yeah,
to see his wife getting attacked constantly.
Yes, he's very protective. So he, and I know that God put me on this path, Mia,
right.
And I don't know what I would do without him through this because
it's hard.
it's hard. It's so hard.
Yeah.
And I just don't want parents to regret after November. Like,
Right.
it's such a big thing to pay attention to.
Yes.
And I'm telling you right now, like Jeff and Janelle, they will fight for your children.
Yeah.
They will fight so hard
Yeah.
to make sure that they get an education.
You're right.
And that is the biggest thing. So,
Yeah.
yeah. Sorry, I start crying. And that they all call me, what do they say? Oh, her white privilege tears.
Oh, gosh.
And they don't know me as a person. That's the problem. They don't know who I am.
That's just so terrible. Like,
yeah.
gosh. Yeah. I had, I had mentioned on my last podcast that somebody called me privileged too. And I was like, okay.
Yeah.
Sure. I mean, I have a relationship with Jesus Christ. That's privilege for sure.
That is, yeah. I'm like, God has blessed
Because
me.
that
God
is,
like, thank you to him
Yeah.
for saving my life. And I don't know what I would be without him.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Well, Heather, thank you so much for coming on the podcast. I feel like we barely even scratched the surface too.
I
I feel like there's so much more to say, but I mean, we don't want this podcast to be like 3 hours.
Right.
Yeah.
I'm still a mom of 4, so I have to get home and get my kids
Right?
to bed.
Exactly.
But
Same.
I appreciate you having me on.
Yeah.
And I would love to come back on again and we can talk about other
Absolutely.
stuff. But I think it's great that you wanted to hear where
Yeah.
my journey started.
Where you stepped up to the podium.
Yep.
And I feel like that's just so important. And for those parents who are, hesitant or scared, or, I would just really say it's just the time is now. Like, it's time to step up to the podium.
Yep.
It's hard. You will be criticized. I am too. I worked in the district when we met, and that's how we met.
Yep.
So I worked in the district, and I did not step up to the podium because I was working there for them still. And, they still attacked me. They still tried to attack me. They still tried to report me to HR. Obviously, nothing happened because it was completely baseless. But, I would just say to those parents who are, on the fence, do it. Just step up and just do it. It's worth it. Your kids are worth it. So anyways, so thank you, Heather, again.
Yeah, just
for telling us your story. All right. Well, we hope you'll tune into the next podcast. And don't forget to vote for only Jeff Toby and Janelle Bowles for Peoria Unified School District. All right. And we'll see you next time. Bye.